Happy birthday, Mr. Adult Man!
Oh, Mom!
Ugh, gross.
What was Dad like?
His beard was scratchy. He had a goofy laugh.
I wish I'd met him.
I have something for you from your dad.
It's a wizard staff.
I wrote this spell so I could see for myself who my boys grew up to be.
This spell brings him back.
Back to life?
He wanted to meet you more than anything.
Holy Tooth of Zadar! How did you...
I don't know. It just started.
Hang on!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Film Optics movie review. And today we are going to be reviewing Onward. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Devin. How's your weekend been, buddy?
It's been pretty swell. It's been in the 60s here in Chi-Town. Very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I've been hearing some really nice, weather spikes going up. It's been pretty nice down here in Music City as well. So, I mean, I think it's like 70s today, clear skies. It's nice, good stuff.
Doesn't get much better.
Yeah, seriously. I can't say the same for Ohio. My mom sent me a screenshot earlier this weekend, and it was just, I was like, I don't want to be there at all. It was just snowing like crazy. So yeah, it was a pretty good weekend though, man. Went to a comedy club. That was a lot of fun. So now every single time, there was a comedian. He came on. They're like aspiring comedians, but this one guy was really funny, and he was talking about, I guess, a member of the KKK of like his chapter or whatever was found like dead in a river, and I'm not sure how recent this was, but they did a little digging, and I guess they call themselves like the head honcho of every like KKK chapter. It's called like the Grand Wizard or what have you. And I found out that he worked at FedEx. He was like, can you imagine that? He's like a grand wizard, this super high authoritative power in this super racist organization, works like $20 an hour at FedEx.
Sounds like you should be an Onward Grand Wizard.
Yeah. Right. There you go. But now every single time I see a FedEx truck, I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe he's a KKK member. I just don't know. That's really weird.
They live in secret.
They live in secret. That is very true. Yeah, for the most part, yeah. And before we begin today's review, just wanted to let everyone know you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Google Music, Tuner, I think it's called. No, TuneIn, YouTube, the whole nine. Anchor as well. Still waiting on iHeartRadio to get back to me, but I haven't heard anything. So hopefully we'll get something this week. But let me read the synopsis for Onward. And the way that we'll do this, we'll have a little non-spoiler section first, and then I'll play a little clip of the movie. We'll head into the spoiler section for this review. So the synopsis reads, two teenage elf brothers, Ian and Barley Lightfoot, go on a journey to discover if there's still a little magic left out there in order to spend one last day with their father, who died when they were too young to remember him. And this was directed by Dan Scallion and produced by Corey Ray. And some of the cast members, as everyone well knows, would be Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, so on and so forth.
Oh, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Dreyfus. I'm sorry. I do apologize.
We don't want these Seinfeld fans out here coming at your neck like Jared.
Yeah, seriously though, and I do apologize, and as well as Octavia Spencer playing the Manticore. So I just wanted to get what were your initial thoughts about the movie, Devin? Going into it, and the whole build up to when you saw it in theaters.
Even just hearing that synopsis, it's just like such a emotional concept for a movie. Just trying to get one last day with a passed away loved one. It's kind of crazy to think about, and the way that they can try to put that into a nice happy Pixar movie, but of course they're Pixar, so they find a way to make it. And yeah,
Yeah.
it was just a nice journey. That's it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I didn't know what to expect from this movie going in. I heard it got really great reviews, and some people are already trying to compare it to Soul that's coming out, I think, this year as well. A lot of people were saying that Soul is supposed to be the better of the two, but I would agree with you, Devin. This movie definitely hit home for me, for someone who has lost my father when I was very young. So I was, I related to this movie a lot. And the whole brotherhood aspect as well. It just, it's just all about family. And you have Ian, who's played by, excuse me. Oh my gosh, I'm Tom Holland. Wow, I'm like blanking on his name. So
Peter
Tom Holland,
Parker.
Parker. Yeah. So Ian's character, he's very timid. He doesn't, he doesn't. It seems like he doesn't have a lot of confidence in himself, and he wants to change that. But between the two brothers, between Ian and Barley's played by Chris Pratt. Barley's was, you know, he was old enough to remember their father before he passed, but Ian never got to meet his father. So it's a very, very powerful story. I don't know, man. It's so, I mean, I guess, like, how are you feeling towards the end of the film? Because honestly, I was tearing up there a little bit. It was
Yeah,
pretty
I definitely had some tears popping up here and there.
for sure. And this is Pixar's most recent film prior to, what was their last one? Was it Toy Story 4?
I think
I
so.
think. Yeah, for Pixar, I think it was. So, I mean, I guess between the two, which one did you enjoy?
Um, I don't know. I mean, Onward's most recent, so it's kind of on my mind more than Toy Story.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I know what you mean. But I really like the entire cast here. Everyone's personality, excuse me, kind of just meshed in, like so well. And it was a very simple story with just a little bit of heartache. And I don't know how they do it, man, but they just that
I
third
knew
act.
I recognized that voice.
What?
Remember he was at that fast food restaurant, and then someone came up and said that he was friends with his dad in college.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was Wilmer Valderrama.
Was it? What? Oh,
I
okay.
thought I
There we go.
recognized it.
Yeah. Oh, that kind of hit me when he's like, my dad. He's wearing the sweatshirt and whatnot. But did you want to touch on anything else before we get into spoilers at all? Because I know we were kind of touching the
Yeah,
waters here.
we're getting pretty close to spoiler territory, so time to
Yeah.
dive in.
All right, everyone. So that was like a super quick non-spoiler talk for Onward. Right now, we're going to get into our spoiler talk for the movie. I'm going to play a quick clip of the film, and then we'll head straight into spoilers.
All right, we're gonna get Warrior Z96. Let me hear you say, I'm a mighty warrior.
I'm a mighty warrior. Morning, Mom. Lazy, down, bad dragon. Back to your lair. Happy birthday, Mr. Adult Man. Oh, Mom. Hey, buddy, don't wipe off my kisses.
What?
You're wearing your dad's sweatshirt.
Oh, finally fits.
Oh, my little chubby cheeks is all grown up.
Okay, Mom, I gotta eat something before school.
All right, and we're back. So from here on out, spoiler talk the entire way. So it's yeah, man. So this movie, unfortunately,
It did such a good job of diverting expectations, I think.
Mhm.
Like, there were so many like tropes and cliches that they easily could have gone into, but they seem to have found a good way to make you think one thing and then another thing happens, especially revolving around everything that happened with Barley, because I really didn't see any of that coming.
Yeah, I didn't see I didn't see a lot of when he's like, oh, we have to take off the beaten path when it comes to finding this stone to resurrect the other half of their the torso of their father. And it leads them all the way back to their high school. And I really like how this film sorry, I'm like, thinking about two different things at once, but like you said, subverting expectations. I really like how this film, it establishes itself and tells you, this is clearly a magical world, and it shows how much the world has changed, and like I guess you can say this is like Bright but better in a way. You know what I mean? Kind of, sort of.
A brighter bright.
A brighter bright, yeah. Exactly. And it's, it does such a good job of explaining how, this magical and fantasy world became so, they started taking their culture is a lot like ours. They start off with like wizards and there's centaurs everywhere. That like they relied so much on magic, and now they're like, well, why should I rely on magic when we've had so many advances in technology, and the magic's kind of still there, but it's like kind of sort of forgotten.
Yeah.
But
I really like the world and setting they chose here, because obviously fantasy, like elves, like that type of world has been done before, but it's never really been done in modern times. Obviously, Bright is the only other one I can think of, but I really like that combination of fantasy and modern times.
Yeah, yeah, and that is what I liked about Bright. I like that concept, but definitely I think Onward does a lot better job. Um, clearly, but yeah, man, this whole movie when it comes to Ian, as I was saying before, he's not very sure of himself, and the fact that they kind of molded his bigger brother into a father, the father figure that Ian essentially grows up with, because since their father has passed since the beginning of the movie. I really liked that kind of, hey, even though your dad's not here, there's a lot of qualities within your other family members that your brother is playing two roles here in a sense, being
Yeah.
a father figure and being your brother, which I really, really
Yeah,
liked.
and they were like dropping seeds for that throughout the whole movie. You could kind of pick up on like
Yeah.
you could just see how happy Browley was for Ian whenever something like good would happen. Like he finds out he can do magic, and then Barley, I should say, is all pumped up, and he's just so happy for him. In a lot of movies, if your little brother gets magic and you don't, the older brother would be pretty mad.
Yeah.
But you could just see how supportive he was and how much he cared.
Yeah, and especially when Barley is the quote unquote screw up of the family, or what does he take? What did his mom say? I think she said this is like the longest gap year
Yeah, longest
ever.
gap year ever.
Yeah, but like I really liked Barley's character because he's kind of like the embodiment of like a nerd, or like someone who plays D&D. He knew so much about the abilities that wizards have,
And he was very passionate about it.
very, very passionate, and he was essentially a nerd, and I really liked his beat up car because it's like it's just so relatable, because my car is like a piece of crap right now, but whatever. uh, but it is, and I really liked the mom as well. Like I feel like the movie, it not necessarily moves slower during the beginning, but it does take a little bit of time for them to get to their actual adventure. But as you were saying earlier, with the friend that knew their father when at the coffee shop, it's very comforting to hear good things about someone that you've quote unquote lost, because even though Ian didn't really know his father, and he's asking people throughout the movie, like, what else can you tell me about my dad, because I know absolutely nothing. And it was a nice touching moment for him.
And
Gave him a little
he
bit.
writes down on the checklist, "Be like dad." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's a tear right there."
Yeah, and he attempts. He's writing down his little list of things that he wants to do. Be more outgoing, speak up, and he's learning all these things throughout the movie. But I like, it's not that he just tries once and then kind of like gives up, because he's constantly put in these same situations over and over and over. And he's so desperate to see his father that, what was it? I think Barley said there was three things that he remembered about his dad, but he never really talked about the fourth, which was, right before his dad passed, he never got to say goodbye. That I didn't expect, and to say, you say your final goodbyes to dad.
Yeah, that's the part that like really surprised me, because halfway through the movie, I was like 100% sure that Barley was going to sacrifice himself or whatever in order to
Mm,
give Ian the time, because that's
yeah,
just what it seemed like it was going for. But then they kind of give you a nice twist at the end, and Ian and recognize um, that Barley didn't have a father figure like Ian has in Barley.
right. Yeah, it tore me apart. I was like, oh my gosh, this is honestly too much for me right now. But my theater, the people I went, my crowd, there was a few younger kids, a few older, people around our age, but everyone really seemed to enjoy this a lot.
Yeah,
I know it's not making as much as Pixar would have hoped, but I feel like that's kind of like, I mean, normally when a Pixar movie came out, it was more of like a big event, but with the advancements in technology, and it looks fantastic, like absolutely.
it always looks so good. I don't know how
Yeah,
Pixar has mastered it so
it's
well.
crazy. Like even like when Ian's wearing like his dad's sweatshirt when it was, but there's always, Pixar always has a little Easter egg. And obviously I didn't notice it because I only watched it once. I would definitely like to watch it again, but they always drop like an Easter egg of what their next film will be. We already know that it is Soul, which is kind of like Coco, when Pixar normally doesn't do musicals or songs within their movies, but I feel like they're starting to kind of venture away from that. But yeah, it looked great. It's, I mean, box office wise, it's, as I was saying before,
I
as
mean,
far as
it's doing well, but it just isn't doing well compared to other Pixar movies, which is
right,
very high
right,
bar. It's at
yeah.
68 million worldwide currently.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm not one to judge a movie all based off of its box office, because I personally don't think. Well, like, obviously, when it comes to if you want a sequel to be made, yes, box office plays a big role, but the quality of the film, like, when I think when Blade Runner 2049 came out, or Doctor Sleep, both of those films were really, really good quality wise, great stories and what have you. But the box office numbers just weren't there, which kind of stinks, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad movie. It's just a lot, like, I mean, especially with Blade Runner 2049, that's more of a sci-fi themed movie, and not a lot of people are into sci-fi, so that makes sense. But I really do like how this is a Bright 2.0. This is everything that Bright, when it came to world building, should have been, instead of trying to make it more of like, oh, like we got to make like a race thing, like the elves are on top, and they're succeeding above the rest. So there's elves, there's orcs, there's pixies, there's fairies. And for the longest time, everyone kept saying, "Oh yeah, that one troll movie," and I'm like, "No, they're elves." But I mean, I can't remember the last time I really saw a blue elf, but oh, I guess I could in a video game. But anything else you wanted to touch on?
I guess I would do
Or
like the world building, but I kind of wish they did a little bit more as far as the different type of creatures and stuff. Like
yeah,
they did elves and pixies, and they did the manticore and a lot
yeah,
of um, half horse, half man. I forgot what they're called,
yeah,
but
yeah. The centaurs. Yeah,
yeah. But I would definitely would have liked a few more things here and there. Other than that, I think that the music was a little lacking. Obviously, it's not a musical or anything, but
right.
it feels like whenever there was an important scene or moment, they just played like a generic rock song, which
Yeah,
made sense and it works. But I think it could have been better, especially the
I
scene
yeah.
where they're dancing with their dad.
Mhm. Oh
Like
yeah,
if,
yeah.
if
It
they would
should have
have
been
had
more of a
if they would have had like an original song there, it could have hit harder. It did still hit, but it could have hit harder.
right. Yeah, and I definitely I would have to agree with you there as far as cons are concerned. I'm trying to think what else. Um I
I
mean,
love at the end where the dragon has the dragon mascot as its face.
as soon as
That
you
that
turn
got a good
around,
laugh in the theater.
I was like, "Oh my god, so terrible." And then the eyebrows came on. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy."
It's such a
I
creative way to create the final boss, if you like to say. Like,
Yeah. Oh, kids loved it. They ate it up. But like this film wasn't to the point where it's like, oh, Sonic the Hedgehog. It's such like a generic, just basic. Oh, you got to help Sonic find his way home. But sometimes that works because within a lot of fantasy movies, even with the Lord of the Rings, like the main goal is to destroy. It's to take the ring to Mount Doom and destroy it. Like that is the number one goal. That is the premise of the entire trilogy. And when it comes to a movie like this, it's just it wasn't like Sonic. It had its adult moments, it had its kid funny moments, but it wasn't like super kiddie to where no one could enjoy it. And that's what I really appreciate about Pixar. They make these films for everyone. It's obviously, it's rated PG, but I feel like this has a very strong family message that a lot of adults can take from. And that brotherly bond that they have, especially if you have like a older or younger sibling, whether it be like a brother or sister. This is something you can definitely relate to.
yeah, definitely,
But
especially the brotherly bond that they
yeah,
showed.
yeah, it's kind of like the Frozen version, with brothers, but
Yeah.
it's Pixar instead of Disney. So you know
I was also kind of curious how they were gonna fit the title into the movie, but I think it worked. They had his drive be O
yeah,
instead of D for
yeah,
Onward, and
yeah.
the underlying message being that if someone you love passes away, you don't want everyone to forget them, but they would like you to move on and go onward, which I kind of like.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to agree with that absolutely, man. Because and I was kind of it wasn't just like like hey, like this is what the like onward means. Like it wasn't like in your face. It was such a passive line that he's like, oh, he's like, go to for onward, and then like boom, like that was pretty much it. And they don't really touch on the theme of why it's called onward, like in your face, oh, like if you haven't figured it out already, blah 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 blah, x y and z. So but yeah, I can't, I'm trying to think of like more besides the a little bit more world building. um I'm trying to think of more of like a cons to this movie, because
I think the at the end
just to kind of
the
balance it out.
well being the answer was kind of weird, like just going
Yeah,
back
because
to
like it
that
was there the
well.
entire time. Because didn't Barley get arrested from that well during the
Yeah,
beginning of the movie? Yeah. Um and I guess the curse was kind of, I mean, the curse was just a curse. I feel like that was just like, oh, they tried to steal this other stone. Or I guess I was trying to figure out why the original I'm just gonna call it the Amber Stone because I can't remember the actual name of it. Um why the first Amber Stone
the
broke. I was like,
MacGuffin.
maybe the MacGuffin, yeah. And I was like, maybe it's because it's so old, and um, I don't know. It kind of just broke, Maybe just it might have been um paid towards the fact that Ian, he has wizard's blood, or he's a quote unquote wizard. Maybe just due to his inexperience, but we never like and I like how we actually get to see what the dad looks like in the very beginning of the movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we
Instead
also
of
get to hear his voice.
Yeah, instead of just saying, oh, like, because everyone's will be like so curious, like, oh, like what does her dad look like, and like literally right off the bat we already see what he
Like a
looks like
Detective Pikachu reveal,
oh
just
my
Ryan
god.
Reynolds.
I still don't understand. Like, as much as I love like that movie, it's a great video game movie. But like, how do you like? If he's your dad,
Your dad
and
is
this
Pikachu.
your dad's Pikachu. It sounds exactly like your father, and you can't put two and two together. Like, why does this Pikachu sound exactly like
It
my
has an
dad?
amazing voice like Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. Oh, that beautiful, beautiful Canadian. But yeah, so is anything else you wanted to pros or cons you wanted to touch on before we give our scores?
I really like the foreshadowing they put throughout the movie, just different moments that you could kind of see they were building towards, like the splinter thing. They got splinters multiple times, and then at the end he uses a
Yeah.
splinter to create a
Create like
new.
a staff. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
actually pretty sweet. I like that. And I think the one part, what really actually killed me um, when Ian's kind of doing like the projection of like their stepfather, who was actually pretty funny. He's just like
yeah.
a super lazy centaur. And that was another reason
That
for,
was a really smart way for them to bring out the tension between the two brothers.
yeah. And I really liked how, he's a copy, he's a centaur. So, and, they're like, oh, why do you drive? I mean, I think Barley was talking about like how fast centaurs can go like on their own speed with their own four legs. And their stepfather's like, well, I have a car. Why do I need to, do that anymore? And that's kind of like the whole, you're born with these legs, you are a mythical, magical, like fantasy creature, but he's driving a car instead, which is, I guess, a whole stereotype that quote unquote cops are lazy, or they sit around eating donuts, during stakeouts all day, and gain those extra pounds. But it is what it is. But I really liked when Ian was like portraying, he kind of casted that um portraying spell when it was like their stepfather, when they got pulled over by the cops. And he had, in order to keep up the illusion, that's the word I was looking for, Ian had to not lie.
Hmm.
But when he was talking about his brother not being like a screw up or whatever it was, or disappointment, I can't remember the exact word. And then that kind of hit me, when it's like, oh, like my little brother thinks that I'm a screw up because of the character that Barley is. But I kind of like how they worked it out. So
Yeah, and I love the montage towards the end where Ian realizes his checklist was all fulfilled with the adventure he was on with his brother.
yeah, that definitely. And I really like how we kept going back to the checklist, because and you can see it through, when Tom Holland acts. We've seen him on screen, but this is more of his first, well, not his first
We don't
boy.
want to talk about the other one.
What was it? Was that Spies in Disguise?
Oh, there's also Doolittle.
Oh, I forgot about Doolittle. Oh my
I
gosh.
actually heard Spies in Disguise is pretty good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I heard it was actually really good. I think it's him and Will Smith. But this is one of his first voice actors, or his third, with Onward. And even with his voice, and just the characters fit so well. And it wasn't like a Lion King situation where it's like, oh, I hear Beyonce's voice, but like the character that she's playing on screen doesn't match up with, like, yeah, her character would sound like that. Like their voices blended in so well with their characters. And when he's crossing off his list, you can kind of just, you can hear it in his voice, how like disappointed he is for not achieving his goals and not moving onward towards the things that he would like to do to become a better person. But yeah, that was a good time, absolutely.
It kind of
Did
felt like Chris Pratt was just doing a Jack Black impression, but I kind of liked it.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, but it works. He was very, his brother was nothing but supportive, and that is something definitely fathers are supposed to do. And he's like, hey, and he's like, Dad's not around, but I can be that father figure that you've never had. So it was a great movie, man. I really enjoyed it. You ready to get into scores?
Yeah.
So out of 100 elves, what would you give Onward?
I would like to give Onward 85 pixies.
Ooh, 85. Okay. I was gonna go with an 85 myself.
Oh my.
So yeah, I'll just give it a little bit extra. I'll bump it up a little bit, just an 87, just because it's when a lot of, like, as I spoke earlier about more like the personal journey and how it hit, it affected me as a viewer. I really just enjoyed it that much more. And yeah, it's
It
just
might not
what.
be an instant Pixar classic, but it's still like
Right.
really good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this and between this and Toy Story, I feel like I really did like Toy Story 4, but again, with Toy Story 3 was so good, and the theme of, and the finality of it was so amazing. I mean, I did like Toy Story 4, but I think I liked Onward just a little bit better. Not like a whole lot, but just a little bit better when it comes to Pixar rankings. But I've actually never really done a Pixar ranking. Maybe we should do that sometime.
Yeah.
Just have a nice little top 10 or something or other. But yeah, so 85 out of 100 from Devin and 87 out of 100 from me for Onward. And that pretty much wraps up our review of the film. If you haven't checked it out yet, we implore you to go watch it. It's a great family film, full of a lot of laughs, a lot of tears, and what have you. It looks freaking fantastic, and it's just, but like you said, it's just so mind blowing how beautiful these worlds that Pixar
If you look in
created.
the background sometimes, it looks like real life.
Yeah, like it's scary. Like they put so much work into this, and it's just wow. Like it's just something. It feels like you can just jump into the screen and be a part of this, expanded universe. There's a lot of like theories out there saying that, like, there's like the Pixar theory where everything's connected. I'm like, I guess that's cool, but I mean, they kind of already have the MCU for that. I mean, if they really wanted to do that with Pixar, they can. I just view them more as like little Easter eggs between each movie. Um, but like, there's a lot of crazy fan theories for Pixar out there. But yeah, that pretty much does it. Again, you can listen to our review of Onward, and you can actually listen to our latest news review where we talk about the Last of Us HBO miniseries. I'm not sure if it's a miniseries or not. They haven't really um, covered that. And we talk a little bit more about Star Wars, shocker, and new Batmobile came out, so that was pretty cool. And what else did we talk about? I can't remember. Our other third. The coronavirus affecting
Oh yeah.
um, the new James Bond film. So all that and more is in our latest news review. And so we'll hopefully have some really nice topics to talk about this coming up week. And I think our next movie review is The Hunt. I believe so.
We get two very random movies next week: The Hunt and Bloodshot.
Oh, I don't know if I want to see Bloodshot, dude.
I'll
I
probably
mean,
see both.
I still have to see The Way Back. I've been extremely busy this weekend, so I gotta watch the Fleck, the Affleck, do his little spiel. I heard it's pretty good, so I'm definitely looking into that. So yeah, between The Hunt and Bloodshot, we'll just figure out if we're going to review both or one or the other. So anyone who follows us on Twitter or Instagram, that's Film Optics, and Optics is spelled OPTIX. For those who want to give us a follow on there. But that pretty much does it, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.